For the second year in a row, Arizona and Nevada will face cuts in the amount of water they can draw from the Colorado River as the West endures extreme drought, federal officials announced Tuesday.
The river provides water across 7 states and in Mexico and helps feed an agricultural industry valued at $15 billion a year. Cities and farms are anxiously awaiting official estimates of the river's future water levels that will determine the extent and scope of cuts to their water supply. Davis Richards reporting.
Explosions and fires ripped through an ammunition depot in Russian-occupied Crimea on Tuesday in the second suspected Ukrainian attack on the peninsula in just over a week.
Russia blamed the blasts in the village of Mayskoye on an act of sabotage, without naming the perpetrators. Separately, the Russian business newspaper Kommersant quoted residents as saying plumes of black smoke also rose over an airbase in Crimea's Gvardeyskoye. Harry Michaels reporting.
American Airlines is once again cutting its flight schedule, slashing 16% or 31,000 flights during November, according to data from an aviation analytics company.
The airline said the move is in line with our approach to network and schedule planning throughout the year. Schedule data provided by Cirium shows the largest cuts are between Chicago O'Hare and Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as between Boston and Philadelphia. Jason Riley reporting.
The Justice Department said in a new court filing that it opposes an effort by multiple media organizations to unseal the supporting affidavit behind the now public search warrant for former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
There remain compelling reasons, including to protect the integrity of an ongoing law enforcement investigation that implicates national security, that support keeping the affidavit sealed, the filing states.
This is the latest news headlines. Monday in the journal Nature Food presented models for a scenario in which the United States and Russia are engaged in a full-scale nuclear war for 1 week. In the scenario of the war between the United States and Russia, the global average calorie production from crops would decrease around 90% within 4 years after the nuclear war. Nuclear war would also reduce the global fish supply. A woman was killed in an apparent alligator attack in South Carolina on Monday, officials said. The large alligator was spotted near the edge of a pond in Sun City Hilton Head, an adult-only community, guarding what was to believe a person, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office said. Responders found the gator and a dead person, the sheriff's office said. The victim hasn't been identified. Kraft Heinz announced a recall on Friday of more than 5,000 cases of Capri Sun due to a possible contamination.
This voluntary recall comes after the company announced the potential contamination affecting approximately 5,760 Capri Sun cases. Each case contains about 10 pouches of its wild cherry flavor. The company said a diluted cleaning solution was inadvertently introduced into a production line at one of its factories. Torvi Rodriguez reporting.
Spider-Man actor Tom Holland has said he is stepping back from social media as he finds it can be detrimental to his mental health. 26-year-old Holland is the latest young star following the likes of Selena Gomez to discuss how sites like Twitter and Instagram can have harmful effects. Many fans applauded him online, with one calling it a smart move. In a video posted online, Holland said, "I find Instagram and Twitter to be overstimulating, to be overwhelming." And that's the latest news headlines. I'm Alan Edwards.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 Hour Pain Relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 Hour Pain Relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 Hour Pain Relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 Hour Pain Relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Live. This is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America. Together. Investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Freddie, and good afternoon, Americans, and welcome to the Jeff Santos Show. And it's great to be with you on this Hump Day edition of the program, a Wednesday edition. We are coming to you live from the South Coast on the 24th of August, 2022. Getting to be close to Labor Day, folks. I'm going to let you know if we're going to have a special on Labor Day itself or not. Maybe it's just time to relax a little bit, as most Americans do. But we have to pay a really good attention to our friends in labor, and we'll be doing some shows in and around Labor Day weekend to talk about that very issue. We are now, less than 10 days away from September. So it's going to be a fascinating time in this country between Labor Day and Election Day in November. We're going to be focused on that quite a bit. In fact, today, many of our guests will have something to say on the November elections. We're going to start off with the former Democratic nominee for president in 1988, our good friend, three-term governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Governor Michael Dukakis, will be with us at 3:33. Then we'll chat at 4 p.m. today with our foreign policy duo, Larry Korb, and, of course, the great Brian Garvey, Mass Peace Action's Brian Garvey, Center for American Progress's Larry Korb. Of course, Korb, former Vietnam vet and Deputy Defense Secretary under Ronald Reagan. 5 o'clock in his usual time slot, the longest serving contributor to the Jeff Santos Show, Mr. John Nichols, will be with us. Still got to get that quote from The Fugitive, Mr. Nichols. One of these days. Anyway, so the great national affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine, great author of many books, including The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party, will be with us in his usual time slot at 5:06 p.m. And wrapping it up is the fantastic Alex Lawson. We thought we had him on Monday, then we thought we had him on Tuesday, but he is a Wednesday guest, and he is, of course, the great fighter. I've been working with our good friend, Senator Bernie Sanders, and a number of others, and we're excited to be having a chance to talk with him. There's some breaking news today. It just finished a press availability with the President of the United States on canceling the student loans. According to the White House, some 43 million Americans will benefit from that. Obviously, it does indeed. So that's a good thing. And again, would never have happened without the progressive movement, without Senator Sanders and Senator Warren and a lot of other folks in the House, including the Progressive Caucus, Ms. Jayapal. I think there is a great opportunity here, folks, to move an agenda forward. And I think it is incredibly important for the Democratic Party to, push and I think move an agenda that is very, very difficult to do without the party centrists coming with the party, progressives to do this. We'll also get into, with our lineup today, particularly John Nichols and Alex Lawson, this idea that, you have to be a centrist to win. Yesterday in Florida, Charlie Crist, the former Republican governor of Florida, and a centrist Democrat, won over Nikki Fried, who was more progressive in that. I'm not sure that Florida really counts in terms of where centrist and progressive politics go, because it's one of the more conservative states. It's a state that, as we talked to you about yesterday, has not gone Democratic since 1994, when Lawton Chiles won re-election, and then 4 years later he was not able to run. I believe he passed away, or was eventually passed away, and his lieutenant governor had to run in his place. The guy named Buddy McKay, I believe his name was. Florida is so far to the right. Doesn't mean the Democrats can't win it. Obama did. Clinton did. But Gore really did in 2000. But it is in a congressional cycle, when you don't have all of the Democratic accoutrements out there, people, doing field 24/7. It's a big swing state, electoral college, yada, yada, yada. The governor's elections, and the proof is in the pudding. Again, the Democrats have not won, and frankly, haven't really been that competitive, with the exception of one or two races over the last 25 years. So if you think about it, that's where things are. And it is sad, but it's the reality of where things are today. Phone number to join us, 833-545-5333. You can also email me, jeff@revolutionboston.com. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Jeff Santos Show. A couple of thoughts that I have that I want to run by all of you. I'm glad that what the president did today on student loans, but I think it's going to be really important for the Democratic Party to understand that these things that they're doing are not going to be all of a sudden knee-jerk reactions by young progressives on the student loan, as an example, or the African-American community on certain issues. You cannot just snap fingers and say everything is going to get much better. Yes, a woman's right to choose affects people of color, African-American, Latino, Latina, of course, white, Asian, young women. And it affects actually people of color more so than it does others, because there's a lot of evidence that a lot of the people in the Republican Party want to stop people of color from expanding, their voting rights. So they're going to do everything possible to make people of color's lives miserable. And, if they have to go to another state to get an abortion, so what? They may get arrested in Texas the way that things are, or you have a lawsuit against them the way the Texas law is. So there's a lot of issues there. But I think that it's important to continue to say, look, this is just a down payment. We are not going to stop because the election cycle is here. And even if we do lose the House, but we hold on to the Senate, we're going to do everything we can to work with a handful of Republicans and see what happens. And if not, we're going to campaign over the next 2 years to get a House and Senate back and to move an agenda that is more progressive than what has currently occurred. You have to do that. And if you do, I think you'll succeed. I mean, just think about all of the stuff that has been very popular for Biden. Go back to March and April of 2021. The American Security Act, you give out the checks. You go ahead and you move on ways to sort of help people that were affected by the pandemic. You start the vaccinations in that, right away in 2021. So you end up in a situation where the Biden administration can point to a lot of things that they have done well and that they deserve credit for. But let's not go too overboard. They still have a lot of problems. In my opinion, they should look at firing the Homeland Security Director, the head of the CDC, and Walensky. I've been talking about that for a long time. Hopefully, we'll have Dr. Kavanaugh coming back after Labor Day to give us an update on a lot of things. Yesterday, I believe the New York Times had talked about, and been reported by other outlets too, that the administration is going to be giving out another booster in the fall, sometime after Labor Day, for those 12 years of age and older, which I think is a good thing. It has kind of been an administration that has not led overtly. It has been an administration that has reacted to progressive pressure, sometimes underneath, and Alex Lawson will talk a little bit about this. And the fact that you have a somewhat progressive chief of staff in Ron Klain, who has to put up with the Bruce Reeds of the world and the Clinton crowd and so forth, doesn't want to budge in the donor base and all of that. But what we have here, folks, is an opportunity to keep on building. And frankly, Joe Biden is not going to be able to run for re-election unless he moves in that kind of progressive direction. Otherwise, you will see, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or some other progressive run to Biden's left. And I think at that point, if Biden doesn't, make a move, and I think this is the critical component here, if he doesn't make a move to go further to the left, he's going to be, in my opinion, a lame duck, and someone else will be the nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024. But I'm not giving up that he doesn't get it, because I think the evidence, going back to 21, going back to the fact, even though this was not a fantastic bill, again, if it wasn't for Bernie Sanders and the progressive movement and Jayapal and the Progressive Caucus, you never would have had a climate change bill. No matter how weak it is, you never would have been dealing with prescription drugs, even though it's only 10 drugs. But the fact is that this was a step in the right direction. And today, with the student loans, a step in the right direction. And we need steps in the right direction. You can't go to the voters and say, oh, well, we hope, we can pray, we can cross our fingers and toes too. People want to see evidence. In fact, I think the prescription drugs, they're 2 years out, so you're not going to see immediate evidence. So you're going to have to figure out an avenue to communicate, and who communicates. I saw Cedric Richmond, who's, I think, a counselor to the president, out today talking about student loans on CNN. Is he the best guy? Maybe. You want to get a young member of Congress who maybe has student loans of his or her own? AOC comes to mind again. You want to sell the Green New Deal? Young people, 29% of 18 to 34-year-olds favor Biden. 71% do not. That's not good. So you have to move left. He doesn't have to say that I'm, a lefty, a democratic socialist, but you can communicate to young people, to the progressive community writ large, regardless if they're 18 or 80, that we believe in an agenda that he has talked about, an FDR agenda. I mean, what our good friends Harvey Kaye, with us on Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern, and Alan Minsky, Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern, talk about is this 21st century version of the Economic Bill of Rights. What Roosevelt said in 1944 in the great movie, Capitalism, a Love Story. Great name. Michael Moore is a smart man and a great movie producer and director. I would say this. If Biden is smart, He pushes a lot of progressives out there advocating for his legislation. He brings them in. He doesn't push them aside. He doesn't say, oh, no, you can't go. He brings them in and he works with them. And maybe there are joint press conferences between himself and AOC and Ed Markey. Maybe Markey is the one that brings them together, the other co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. There are a lot of different political people. Cory Booker is a great speaker, close to the White House. Utilize him if you want to talk to the African-American community. You know, there's a number of different ways. You always don't have to go back to Obama, although Michelle would always be a welcome advocate too. But there are a lot of people that would like the Rose Garden, that would like the presidential seal. They're all got egos. We know that. We all do if we're in some kind of media, some kind of political public life. Well, share it. You're going to be president for another couple of years, maybe another 6 years. And that's it. So lay the foundation for a better, progressive FDR America. That's what you do. All right, we're going to open up the phone lines at 833-545-5333 or 833-545-JEFF with a J, of course. You can email me, jeff@revolutionboston.com. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And let's start in Minneapolis. We're going to go to John and then our good friend Mark in San Francisco right after that. John, good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I am doing okay, my man. Doing okay. I hope you and Christy had a good meeting yesterday with your docs and so forth, and everything was going well.
Well, we won't find out until Monday, the 29th. They will review all the information that they have. So then we'll get a diagnosis, which we've been waiting for literally for months, considering how they drag their feet and how slow everything goes. It's just, just the way it is.
Know about that all too well.
There's nothing I can do about it except, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. You don't really know until you actually utilize the healthcare system at that level as to what it is that they do. But if you don't push, they don't do anything. I've found.
No, they don't. That's the sad part about it. I've seen it myself with my dad's care.
And then there's a lot of corporate style monetization of medicine, and that's a problem because, of course, they don't really want to do anything either. That's another issue or problem. So I was not impressed, but fortunately, she's got some good physicians here at the University of Minnesota. So I'm happy
That's
for
great.
that.
Well,
but anyway, I just wanted to say, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, no,
go ahead,
I just wanted to say, we've been, as a country, we've been yanked so far to the right. Where is the middle? There's no middle. There's no real middle. The politics is essentially all right. It's all corporate, unfortunately, and we have to work with them in that. But, trying to push it in another direction, people are on board with that. If it was really allowed to happen instead of all of the voter suppression, filibuster, all of the things that prevent any kind of change, this is not what the founding fathers of this country actually meant when they created this government, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We could have stayed with, who was it, King Charles, we could have had a king. George. We could have stayed with King George. Right? Yeah, we could have stayed there for as good as, as what we've ended up with at this point, it's just a political stalemate. And that's why nothing gets done. And there's a lot of things that need to be done. Healthcare, student loans, securing of Social Security, the environment, doing stuff about, we talk about, with somebody who has some expertise in nuclear disarmament. All of these things need to be done. What's going to get done? Nothing. And it's just going to be I guess I can use shit show of nothing. And then, we have to deal with the fact that a sitting president can take the most sensitive, classified material back to his own home.
Like
and the other party just want, yeah. And
no,
the other
it's a sad
party
state of affairs, John,
thinks it's a big joke.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean it is, and if we don't get him behind bars or at the very least indicted and not allowed to ever run for president, for that matter, any office ever again, then the Democrats have dropped the ball, and we can't have a half measure here. It's got to be either you lock him up, as he'd like to say about the former First Lady, Miss Clinton, or he gets the proverbial you can't run ever again for anything. And so he's a feckless tiger. Thank you, John. Appreciate it very much. Let's go to San Francisco, and then we'll talk to you later, John, in the broadcast. Mark in San Francisco is next, and we'll try to see if we can sneak in Steve from the East Bay as well. Mark, go right ahead, my man. What's on your mind today?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jeff, we just have to rebuild the Democratic Party, get more progressives, hold the line. Keep the Republicans out. I mean, that's the game plan. The more progressives we get in, we got to build this Democratic Party from the ground up. And each race that we can get a progressive to run is the way we got to go. I mean, we're in crunch time right now. We've got to save our democracy. We've got to hold the Republicans out, and that's a game plan until we can rebuild the Democratic Party to get the real big things done that we really need. I mean, we've got some done, but we can go way better. If we got rid of two moderate Democrats in the Senate, we could have done a lot more. So that's the game plan I see.
I agree. And by the way, if we do get keep the House and the Senate, we should try to get D.C. statehood so we can get ourselves two more Democratic senators, as we talked the other day with Harold Meyerson.
We go for everything, Jeff. We go for everything.
You're spot on. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you, Mark. We'll talk to you later in the program, too. All right, let's go to Steve. We got about a minute here. Steve, go right ahead, man.
Jeff, your opening commentary is spot on. I mean, you're great. That's you have a talent for that.
Thank you, man.
But I think that, you're welcome. Listen, Mark says we build the roster. We're maybe a decade away of changing things because you can't give $10,000. That's nothing. It's like giving my kid $100 and say, it's a start for college. Even, come on. It doesn't even move the needle. We gave $40 billion plus to Ukraine. And now it really kind of grows a thumbs down on all the black women that have the most debt. And it's a shame, but this is what we get with a neoliberal president. I support him, but we can't expect anything more. This is bogus. And the leadership,
I don't know. Maybe we can. We got to put more pressure on him, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh, no, Jeff. I'm sorry, not to argue. We put enough pressure. We just got to hold on and be respectful to him. That's all. He knows better, but he's not. It's not within his. Look at his history, please.
No, I know. Look, he's a moderate guy. He's a corporate guy, and I understand all of that. But I mean, we only have to said before. I'm not going to argue too much with you, Steve, because I love you. But the fact is that this is who we have, and we got to work with him. We got to push with him, and if he doesn't push, he's not going to be around in 2024 anyways. Hey, we got to run, man. We'll talk to you later in the broadcast. This is a Jeff Santos show. We'll be right back after this timeout. Thanks, Steve.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs. 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit by being swept to FDIC member institutions. To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to be speaking with our good friend, the former Democratic nominee for president, 1988, three-term governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Governor Dukakis, momentarily. And again, folks, just a reminder, tomorrow we'll be chatting with our good friend Andrew Perez of The Lever on how the Republicans, again, have tremendous amount of dark money from a billionaire by the name of Mr. Syed out of Chicago. We'll get into that tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. We are having a problem with getting Governor Dukakis on the program. Hopefully, we can try to get that squared away momentarily. Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to see if we can move on that. Let me just say this. I think that, we're at a point right now where a lot of people, and our good friend Steve was illustrating that, are not believers in Joe Biden. I will say this. There are a lot of people that will never believe, and understandably so. But we only have one president at this time. And in my view, you have to be able to pull an agenda together to move everything you can. And one of the reasons why I was so bullish on Sarah Nelson, Sean O'Brien, Bernie Sanders event the other day is that kind of pressure, that kind of ability to move the ball, and I wish more of the American media would actually cover it. There wasn't any cameras that I could see there on the platform where they would normally have cameras. There was a couple of still photographers, and I know the Politico and the Boston Globe were there. But in my view, there is a real need for more pressure to be on the Biden administration. And we're going to all be on the same page, between now and Election Day in November. But after that, the pressure has to continue. Now, of course, if the Democrats lose the House, nothing is going to get by, unless it's some really, really weak bipartisan legislation, and that tends upon the House. But there is a situation here where I think it's really important. Just a note to our good friend Freddie Santori, we're going to sending you a text to try to reach the governor, and hopefully, if there was a mistake, you can rectify that and give him a ring. I know he is standing by. My hope here is that we on the progressive side do our diligence to work together to keep the majority in the House, expand it in the Senate, and see what we can do in terms of moving an agenda that is more progressive and that Biden has signed on to. And we'll get people like Nichols and Alex Lawson who, work with the quote unquote establishment and try to get, a quarter on the dollar, maybe if we're lucky, 45 cents on the dollar, because you still have the likes of Bruce Reed and others that are there. And that's, that is the problem. You're going to have a lot of leftovers from the Clinton administration, and that is a big issue. But we're going to try to do what we can and to, bring together the centrist wing of the party with the progressive wing and see if there are avenues that we can, move the ball down the field. And it's going to have to be not only, working in conjunction over the next 2 months. I mean, I think there's some primaries in Rhode Island, obviously in Massachusetts right after Labor Day. But for the most part, all the big states with the big races have already had their primaries. So what needs to happen now is to kind of come together and, make sure you defeat Republicans and fascism. But you need to continue, right after that election Tuesday in November and continue to push Biden in a more progressive agenda. If he doesn't go that way and he uses and the Democrats lose the House, then what you got to do is you got to say, well, what are you going to do if you win the House and Senate in 2024? What are you going to do in 2025? Because we need a lot more work to be done in this country. And that needs to change. All right. We have found our good friend, the former 1988 Democratic nominee for president, 3-term governor of the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's great to have our good friend, Governor Michael Dukakis, with us. Governor, how are you today?
Well, I'm okay. Sorry about the technical problems.
Oh, no worries.
It has more to do with my lack of expertise when it comes to dealing with electronic stuff. In any event,
that's all right.
Good to talk with you, and
it's good to talk with you,
good
sir.
to be able to discuss things. Yeah.
Yes. Well, there's so much to discuss, and I guess I want to start off with, where things are. The president just recently, of course, signed student loan forgiveness. There is also, a couple of weeks ago, you had the IRA plan. I laugh because, the first thing I think of with the IRA is Jerry Adams and the Irish Republican Army, or an individual retirement account. So I don't know if that was the best name for it, but,
Right.
if Manchin wanted the word inflation in it to get his signature and an okay. I guess so, but I think there are better ways to sell the plan. That being said, there are some good things in the plan. Again, not as far as I would like. 10 prescription drugs. It should be more. The still some giveaways to oil companies on there, even though it's finally we have a climate change legislation. What do you make of that, and where do you feel the Democratic Party needs to move to continue to bring in more voters, to increase President Biden's popularity? He's gone from the high 30s to the low 40s, or even the mid 40s. Where do you think he and the Democratic Party writ large should be going forward on?
Well, I think the Democrats have certainly had a very good last several weeks, no question about it. In fact, the last 2 or 3, Jeff. And I think that's the result of a lot of hard work and sitting down and coming to some conclusions. And, whether one likes it or not, you have to end up with some kind of an agreement which unites the party. And under the circumstances, I think what the president has done and what the Democratic members of Congress have done has been very impressive over the last few weeks at a time when the other side doesn't seem to be functioning. I mean, I don't know what the Republican Party stands for these days. I don't know.
Not much, except for power and greed.
Not only not much, but it's just a party that seems to be at each other's throats, with Trump obviously dominating the scene, even though he himself seems to be getting into more and more and more trouble every day because he can't quite get his story straight as to just what he was doing with those documents. And
let me ask you, Governor.
Let me say this: I'm relatively optimistic. I think this has been a good stretch, not only for the president, but for the party itself and for the country, to tell you the truth. And we've just got to continue to do that. I don't know whether there's been a
Governor
decision
on here on the Jeff Santos show.
Jeff, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether there's been a decision on student loans, but whatever it is going to be helpful. And there's no question about it.
Yeah, I think it's $10,000. It was announced today by President Biden, and he says it will help up 43 million Americans. I think a lot of people wanted more. I know I did, but it's a step in the right direction. But let me ask you on Trump, because this had come up a little bit earlier. Do you feel like I do that either, and again, I know this is not something you had ever outlined in your, in your plan in 1988, you would ever have to deal with this. But in my view, where we have seen and what happened on January 6th to me, and obviously Trump's fingerprints are all over that day. In my opinion, either you have to arrest him, indict him, and whether he goes to jail or not, I don't care. Although I would like to think that his orange hair and an orange jumpsuit would be a great fashion statement for him and the people who follow politics. I only joke on that, but if it happened, this wouldn't be a bad thing. The other thing is that at the very least, they can stop him from running for president again, because giving him a platform to lie and to destroy, to me, is outrageous. So one way or the other, whether you indict him or whether you prevent him from ever running again, even for dog catcher, to me, that's an impeach. Do you agree with me that something has to be done? You just can't give him a slap on the wrist and let him go on and do whatever he has been doing his entire life, and then obviously since 2015.
So long as it is legal and in accordance with law, I would favor that. But you can't go after this guy unless you have a very, very solid legal case. And we happen to have an attorney general who is a very impressive guy, but a very careful guy.
Yeah.
And I think people, because one of the reasons that he has taken as much time is because he is a very careful guy. But the fact that he made a decision to proceed with this tells you a lot about his integrity and the integrity of the process. And I think we ought to appreciate that. Whether or not it leads to an indictment is something that only he and others can determine. It's been a long time, Jeff, since I practiced law. Believe me.
Yeah.
And and so I'll leave that to the Attorney General and to the people that work with him. But it's pretty.
But don't you think,
obvious
though, that allowing him to go free, Governor, presents a dire emergency to the American democracy? I mean, you can't can't go after the king. What's that cliche? And not kill him in a sense. I mean, I'm not talking about literally killing him, of course.
But we're not dealing with that kind of stuff. We're dealing with a body of law and a constitution and a government system that we hope and expect is consistent with not only the law but our sense of ethics and integrity and all of that. And it's up to the Attorney General. And again, I repeat, he's somebody with enormous integrity. It's up to him and the people around him to make that decision. And I'm confident that they will make the right decision, whatever that is.
Right. Well, I agree. I have faith in him, but I don't want to see us, 6 months from now, say, we tried, but we couldn't get this guy to do that, and so on and so forth. But look, I understand. Before we go on, I want to talk about a little bit about transportation, particularly in Massachusetts. I know our good friend John Bussinger is listening. Yeah, exactly. Particularly with the disaster of the MBTA and the Orange Line that has been shut down 2 weeks before school opens in the most populous college city in America. But before we go there,
just ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and it's ridiculous that
why we are at this point with 2 weeks to go before, or less, before the school year begins, and why this work was not done a long time ago is beyond me. This is repair work. I mean, it's regular overhaul work. We've been looking for new cars for 8 years. Most of them still haven't arrived. I mean, it's this is not worthy of the Commonwealth, and certainly isn't anything like the kind of MBTA that I think
you did
something to do with
last time.
And
that
in fact, left
MBTA actually had a
shape.
Advocate on their side.
But we are going to have a new governor, and
well, I want to get to Healy.
When this is
in a second, as more than likely she will be the next governor. But I want to ask you go back a step here, because actually it involves infrastructure. I mean, what has happened here, and this is not just Trump. This goes back to time when you were governor. 1978. You got the Prop 2.5 and Prop 13 in California, and all this kind of stuff. And what you end up having is the idea that government is no good. Government sucks, to be very vulgar. And my view is that we need to change that around. And I think the progressive agenda, one that I believe in, as an FDR agenda that promotes what FDR all the way through to first 2 years of LBJ before Vietnam killed him and killed the whole concept of good government. Back there in 65, 66, 67, post Medicare and so forth. So I really think that we're at a state right now where, again, whether it's Trump getting indicted or the idea that you allow this fascist anti-government where you can't get anything done because they think there's not enough money. I was watching CNN earlier today. They have schools in Ohio that have rats in the hallways where the students are. They don't have air conditioning. That's just not only in Ohio; it's all around the country. The structure of America today, its infrastructure, it's how we treat people, it's education. It's bad, and we need to, I think, massively repair it. Just not only the physical stuff, but just how we have our government, because the Republican Party wants no part of it. They don't
this is not a Rockefeller Republican Party. It's not even a Nixon Republican Party. This is a Republican Party that wants to destroy government, and that's been their goal for a number of years now. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure that there aren't Republicans who believe strongly that our infrastructure, for example, our roads and our public transportation systems and our regional rail system doesn't need a lot of work, and they won't support it. And in point of fact, there's some evidence that some of them have. But I don't think this is a problem that can't be solved. We've just not had the kind of leadership, especially when it comes to infrastructure, which gave us what I'd like to think was the kind of public transportation system that I'd left behind me after 12 years as governor. But it all has to do with the quality and caliber of the people a governor picks to manage that system, Jeff. I think it's very important that people understand there's no magic here. And we have excellent people who worked for me, who did a terrific job and did great work. And we could do that again fairly quickly, I think, with a new governor and a new state administration. And I hope and expect that that's going to happen. But there's no magic here. There's a lot of work to be done. We've got to have good people working at that, and I think they'll have plenty of public support. And the one thing they better not do is shut down the system with 2 weeks before the school year. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
Well,
why that was permitted to happen is beyond me.
Well, I mean, that's Charlie Baker way. That's the Republican way. And there have been a lot of people on the Democratic side that have been basically said, all right, well, he's the governor, so what are we going to do? I feel like there is, though, a warning sign. Look, I'm voting for Healy. I'm going to support her. I'm going to interview her and so on and so forth. But when I heard the other day, her television commercial, which I saw on all channels because I was at a doctor's office, the Fox network, one of the things that she was talking about, which goes to my point about good government, is she wants to have more tax cuts. Look, that to me is Republican playbook 101. Why is she playing in that field? She's going to win by 20 points. I don't understand that. And then she takes, a view of the east-west rail, or west-east, I think is what she called it. It doesn't mention anything about what you and our good friend John Bussinger have been fighting for 40 years, not longer, of the north-south rail link. And, to me, you need to, a lot of my progressive callers, say you got to fight for more than what we've been given, Jeff. And I agree with them. And I think that, I want to see Healy succeed and become the best governor next to you and that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. But I don't like the way she's starting off, because you're not going to be able to win over Charlie Baker voters. I'm sorry. And that's not really what you should be doing anyways. Your thoughts?
Well, and I don't know how many Charlie Baker voters there are, to tell you the truth, at this point. I don't want to be facetious, but is there a Republican Party? What does it stand for? What would it do if, God forbid, it ever was given the responsibility to manage the government of the Commonwealth? No, I'm optimistic. Mara is a very good person. She's been much more deeply involved in important other things than infrastructure, but she's somebody who I'm confident will surround herself with very, very good people who know what they're doing when it comes to building, expanding, and giving us a first-class transportation system. And I'm quite sure she will do that. And a lot of us will be doing everything we can to help her.
Well, I hope so. I hope the people who are around what would hopefully be Governor Healy, now Attorney General Healy, that she will have people, that, not necessarily, had worked for you, but people who understand what you and Mr. Bussinger and many other advocates that you work with in Massachusetts have done. And actually people that may be now working
in other parts of the country that you can bring in, whether or not they have alliances with some of your great staffers and so forth. But I think that, you need to put it as a priority, correct? Isn't that a big part of it?
No question. It's at the top of the list. I mean, this situation is inexcusable, and even before she takes office, she's got to assemble a team of excellent people who go to work. And by the way, at the same time, continue as best she can to work with the folks that are there. I don't know many of them. I'm not quite sure who's calling the shots these days, but there are a lot of very, very good people in this state who know their stuff when it comes to building things and designing things and making things happen. And I'm quite confident that we'll have a new administration that really goes to work and turns this whole situation around, which is, needless to say, inexcusable and embarrassing.
No, it is. It's a real blight on something that you built and took a lot of pride in. And again, for an entire Orange Line, and I drove into Boston on Sunday to go to this event, Senator Sanders and our friends at the Flight Attendants Union, Sarah Nelson and Sean O'Brien, a Boston guy, Teamsters president. And, everywhere I went, beware Orange Line closures and so on and so forth. It's embarrassing. Right. I mean, when I lived there for many years, I would take the Orange Line, the Red Line, everywhere. It's a whole different world. Governor, thank you.
This particular project, I mean, there are lots of things that ought to happen, but this particular project that John Buskinger and I and so many other people are pushing hard for.
30 seconds, yes.
Would take 40, 45,000, 60,000 cars off the road every day.
That's right.
That would be spectacular. And I hope and expect that under the new administration we'll do that.
Governor, look forward to that and look forward to talking to you again. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. I appreciate you coming on today, and thank you again.
You too. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Governor, you're welcome, sir. Governor Michael Dukakis right here on the Jeff Santos Show. We'll be right back with Brian Garvey, Mass Peace Action, and our good friend Larry Korb. After this, time out.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
The Justice Department said in a new court filing that it opposes an effort by multiple media organizations to unseal the supporting affidavit behind the now public search warrant for former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
There remain compelling reasons, including to protect the integrity of an ongoing law enforcement investigation that implicates national security, that support keeping the affidavit sealed, the filing states.
American Airlines is once again cutting its flight schedule, slashing 16% or 31,000 flights during November, according to data from an aviation analytics company.
The airline said the move is in line with our approach to network and schedule planning throughout the year. Schedule data provided by Cirium shows the largest cuts are between Chicago O'Hare and Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as between Boston and Philadelphia. Jason Riley reporting.
Explosions and fires ripped through an ammunition depot in Russian-occupied Crimea on Tuesday in the second suspected Ukrainian attack on the peninsula in just over a week.
Russia blamed the blasts in the village of Mayskoye on an act of sabotage, without naming the perpetrators. Separately, the Russian business newspaper Kommersant quoted residents as saying plumes of black smoke also rose over an airbase in Crimea's Gvardeyskoye. Harry Michaels reporting.
For the second year in a row, Arizona and Nevada will face cuts in the amount of water they can draw from the Colorado River as the West endures extreme drought, federal officials announced Tuesday.
The river provides water across 7 states and in Mexico and helps feed an agricultural industry valued at $15 billion a year. Cities and farms are anxiously awaiting official estimates of the river's future water levels that will determine the extent and scope of cuts to their water supply. Davis Richards reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. Spider-Man actor Tom Holland has said he is stepping back from social media as he finds it can be detrimental to his mental health. 26-year-old Holland is the latest young star following the likes of Selena Gomez to discuss how sites like Twitter and Instagram can have harmful effects. Many fans applauded him online, with one calling it a smart move. In a video posted online, Holland said, "I find Instagram and Twitter to be overstimulating, to be overwhelming." Kraft Heinz announced a recall on Friday of more than 5,000 cases of Capri Sun due to a possible contamination.
This voluntary recall comes after the company announced the potential contamination affecting approximately 5,760 Capri Sun cases. Each case contains about 10 pouches of its wild cherry flavor. The company said a diluted cleaning solution was inadvertently introduced into a production line at one of its factories. Torvi Rodriguez reporting.
A woman was killed in an apparent alligator attack in South Carolina on Monday, officials said. The large alligator was spotted near the edge of a pond in Sun City Hilton Head, an adult-only community, guarding what was to believe in a person, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office said. Responders found the gator and a dead person, the Sheriff's Office said. The victim hasn't been identified. Monday in the journal Nature Food presented models for a scenario in which the United States and Russia are engaged in a full-scale nuclear war for 1 week. In the scenario of the war between the United States and Russia, the global average calorie production from crops would decrease around 90% within 4 years after the nuclear war. Nuclear war would also reduce the global fish supply. And that's the latest news headlines. I'm Alan Edwards.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
This is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America. Together. Investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Josh. It's hour 3 of the Jeff Santos Show, and welcome to it, folks. Coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If you are a regular listener, regular viewer of the Jeff Santos Show, we will obviously, if you go to Facebook Live and type in Jeff Santos Show, you'll be able to listen and watch half of the interview. Governor Dukakis was actually on the phone today, not on video. And you can do that with many of our guests as well. Facebook Live, put it in the search bar, Jeff Santos Show, and be able to do it at your convenience. We're all going to try to have that feature too on the Revolution Radio Network as we look to make some changes going forward. Maybe take some time off over the next couple of weeks to make sure we're ready to rock and roll just after Labor Day. For all of you out there watching and listening at different times of the day here on the Jeff Santos Show. Always, though, at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific. We are one of the very few shows today on radio or television that will give you an hour of foreign policy, international policy, as we like to call it, the International Hour. And we are so lucky to have two of the best in the nation. And that is, of course, led by our great friends Brian Garvey and Larry Korb. Larry Korb is the former Deputy Defense Secretary under Ronald Reagan. He's also a Vietnam vet, and we thank him for his service, as we always should. And, of course, he's now at the Center for American Progress, senior fellow there, with our good friend, the Assistant Director at Massachusetts Peace Action. Mass Peace Action is a sponsor of the Jeff Santos Show, and, of course, we're talking about our good friend, Brian Garvey. Larry, Brian, great to have you on the show today. We got much to talk about. And I want to start again, like we did last week, in comparison on domestic agenda versus foreign policy agenda. And one of our great callers, Steve, mentioned this last hour. And that is that the president, I think, did the right thing in cutting student loans, $10,000 and so forth. But it's a far cry from what a lot of us on the progressive side wanted. And at the same time, and I had a chance to, because the way the computer is set up now, I have to look over the computer, which is the video monitor. And our friends at the BBC just talked about $3 billion in aid from the United States to our friends in Ukraine. And again, as you know, and we've discussed this, both of you, I have not been a fan of Mr. Putin, never will be. I think he is, a dictator. I think he is sleaze. I think it's not somebody who should be leading a nation. All that being said, and I'm going to start with you, Larry, on this. I think we need to come to a conclusion here, to end this war. And I'm not sure, if given another check is going to, make it any easier to come to an agreement. You've been through this before. You've been on the negotiating tables. I mean, is there a game plan here on the Biden side, to end this war? Or, are they just trying to sort of, go and ad lib here, month by month? What is your thoughts on this?
Well, I think they're trying to make Russia pay such a heavy price that they'd be willing to negotiate. And that's why they're providing this assistance, which they have. The real problem is Putin. He does not want to admit that he made a big mistake. There's a great article in today's Washington Post that shows how he poorly planned for this war. I mean, it's a very long piece, but that's the real problem. He has to demonstrate to him that no matter what you do, you can't achieve your objectives. And in fact, if anything, it's getting worse. I mean, you've had the attacks in Crimea now, which they've controlled since 2014. You've had it's about 70,000 Russian soldiers have been killed. And they don't want to institute a draft because if they do, then the people will see what's happening. But they're sending in, poorly trained forces and mercenaries and everything like that. So I wish there were a quicker way that you could do it, but I think you've got to make him realize that he's paying too high a price. And then we have leverage with Zelensky because we're providing not only $15 billion in military aid, but we're also providing about $60 billion in economic aid, just us. And then, of course, you've got what the European allies are doing.
No doubt. We're talking with our good friend Larry Korb, Center for American Progress. We know we have a wrong title there. And Brian Garvey, Massachusetts Peace Action. We're at a point now, Brian, where I think that we need to set, some deadlines here. If it means that, there needs to be an emergency meeting between, Putin and Biden, so be it. If it needs to be the Lavrov and Blinken. But I think we need to start calling for this because this is only costing more lives on both sides. And, if there's any decency left at all in Putin, he needs to quickly get somebody to the table. No way around that. Your thoughts, Brian? Oh, I think we muted Brian's microphone there. Okay. All right. Brian, can you unmute yourself if you are unmuted? No? All right. He, I guess he doesn't understand. Larry, I tell you, it's on your end, Brian. Okay. If you can get Freddie to work on that, Josh, that would be great. Can you hear him, Larry? No?
No, I can't hear. I can see him, see his mouth there, but I can't hear him.
Okay.
How about now?
Yes, I can hear you now. There you
go. There we go.
Very good.
Hey, the old turn it off, turn it on. But before I forget, I think you raised something that's very important, Jeff, to get to your question. That's the question of deadlines, and timetables. I remember that constantly. We heard this from the Bush administration over and over again during the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, that you can't set timetables, you can't set deadlines, because that will only let the enemy know what your plans are. And I think that kind of thinking is a recipe for forever war. So yes, I think you're absolutely right, Jeff, that you need to set deadlines. You need to be clear, and the Biden administration needs to be clear with the American people. How long do we expect this to go on? How much money do we think it's going to cost? Because these are important. These are, frankly, they're election issues as well. And the American public has a right to know How long we plan to be engaged in this conflict. I know we're not directly involved, but we are deeply involved economically, and we're providing military advice, and this opens up the whole world to many dangers. So I think you're absolutely right. I think the administration should be clear. They should be clear about how long they think this is going to last, what needs to be achieved, and how much money they think it's going to cost.
No, I think it has to happen. And look, I mean, again, in my view, you can try the idea of putting a bunch of money on the table, and then that all of a sudden scares Putin. And look, I'll give it time, but we're going to be another season, fall season coming up, in a few weeks, and I feel like we have to sort of move an agenda forward here. Particularly, I mean, Biden has already done this. Again, granted, he got a lot of flack on Afghanistan, but he did the right thing. And, he said, look, we're not going to keep, doing this. And Brian, I think that, that should serve as a roadmap. Now, maybe you do it a little bit differently in terms of how you message it, how you have people out there kind of talking about it. And again, it's not so much that it's not an exact analogy, because it's not like it's American troops in Ukraine, but it's the idea that you need to give some kind of timetable here, because people are just dying.
Well, right? I know that Larry has talked about this quite a bit in the past, and I've heard it from other astute analysts about the Biden administration coming forth with much of their intelligence. I think they should have shared more and shared the evidence, but they were very predictive in terms of what the Russians were planning on doing. And I think that helped avoid some of the possible false flags and the claims that this was an attack in self-defense, which I think partly because of the Biden administration, it's obvious that it wasn't. And I think they should do that again. They should be as upfront as possible. Be the reverse of the very opaque and mendacious Trump administration. Be open with the American people and tell them hard truths, right? You said it. He got a lot of flack for the pullout from Afghanistan, but I think that history will vindicate the Biden administration. Could it have been done better? Of course, but it was the right thing to do. It was a hard thing to do.
Larry?
Yeah, well, don't forget, I hate to give Trump credit. He's the one who started the negotiations there, and Biden just followed them up because he had campaigned against it and said that we needed to do that. And basically, it'd be interesting to see. Now, I think he, was too nice toward Putin, whether he would have really gotten involved in this war if he was still there, because he was really undermining NATO.
Right.
But I think what you need to do is be honest with the American people and say, we're talking to the Russians right now. We're trying to get them to do this. But we made it clear to them that we're not going to, stop giving aid to the Ukrainians unless you come around. So, I mean, it's got to be, a two-sided thing. But yes, and they need to tell the American people how much we've spent, because you got $15 billion in military aid, but you've had close to 50 in economic aid that we've given to Ukraine because of the, what they've, what's happened to their economy.
And we're talking with our great friends, Larry Korb, Center for American Progress, senior fellow there, and of course, Brian Garvey, assistant director, Massachusetts Peace Action. Talk to me, guys, about the scenario here with Donald Trump and how this investigation, how American allies and others are looking at this. We just talked to our good friend, Governor Michael Dukakis. Larry, you're a big fan of the former governor. And, I was trying to pin him down. And, as a skillful political figure, he wouldn't let me. But I said, look, in my opinion, either you have to indict him, put him in the orange jumpsuit and match his orange hair. It's a great fashion statement. Or you have to make sure that he never runs for office, dog catcher or whatever. And I just wonder, how the rest of the world is going to look at this. Enemies as well as allies. Larry, you have a thought on that?
Well, there's no doubt about the fact, and it's very interesting. People have compared giving the pardon to Richard Nixon to the situation where you have now. I thought it was very courageous on President Ford's part because the last thing we needed, and I don't know, Brian, remember, he was too young to remember that, how bad
he wasn't even born
things
yet, I
were
don't think.
back then. The last thing we needed to do was put Nixon and all those people on trial. But I think that's what you really need to do. The Justice Department and the president needs to go to Trump and say, look, okay, you can't run again. We'll pardon you and let's get this over with and let's get it behind us and make some sort of deal like that. I mean, based on my own experience, the fact that you had not only top secrets, but compartmentalized stuff there. I mean, how anybody could take that out of the White House. I mean, it's one thing to take out a note from Kim Jong-il, after the visit, but to take those things, I couldn't even read in my office. I had to go to a special room to, to read those things. So I think that, and, get Trump to admit that, he shouldn't have done it. He should have been more careful and things like that. But yeah, I mean, this is everything I know. It's pretty serious. And then, of course, not only do you get the national security, you get the legal ramifications about what the courts will allow you and who came forward and everything like that.
Brian, your thoughts on this? Because look, I mean, you have a scenario. If he gets away with this, meaning doesn't get indicted, he's able to run again. You allow somebody who has demonstrated that he has no value for the law of the land, that he is willing to go and lead the attack, according to many observers and people who worked for him on January 6th. I mean, he basically, by giving him a platform to run for president again, you're opening up a can of worms that will make January 6th look like a tea party. And I'm not talking about what happened, in Boston or Concord, Lexington. I'm talking about, having a little crumpets and stuff. I mean, this is only to escalate. So to me, the rest of the world is saying, look, you're the shining city on the hill, and you got a guy who wants to have a coup d'etat, and you're not going to do anything about it. Brian?
Yes, I think that the one thing that I'll push back there, and I think we need to do everything possible to make sure that Donald Trump does not return to the White House. I think it's amazing that we dodged a bullet. I know a lot of bad things happened during the Trump administration, but considering that we had someone like that in the Oval Office for 4 years, I think we were lucky.
We were.
I don't want to roll those dice again.
Exactly.
But I think it's necessary. It's not just Trump. It's the entire movement behind him. It's 75 million people that voted for him. I think that's how you beat Trump. I think how you beat Trump is you say to his supporters, this guy's a fraud. This is a billionaire who inherited all of his money and frankly never worked a day in his life. And when he got into office, the only thing he made sure of was that him and people like him were going to get a big fat tax cut.
Yeah, exactly.
That was his
priority. And he could make more money off
that was the only major piece of legislation that he got done. I have just heard so many times that Trump is going to be led away in handcuffs or he's going to be prosecuted, and it has not come to fruition. That simply I can't count on it anymore. I think he needs to be beaten in the traditional way by saying he's a bad leader, and we're going to do better for the American people.
But to your question earlier, how do allies and adversaries look at this? While we don't know the specifics, and some of it remains secret, I hope that a lot of the folks that he was dealing with, particularly Saudi Arabia, are quaking in their boots, thinking, "Oh, we might get caught with our hands in the cookie jar here."
Yes.
Because I think there was certainly a lot of nefarious activity going on there.
Well, that actually leads me to a question that I think plays with this, and this is how I look at it. To your best guess, because that's all we can do at this point. I mean, if he had things in the safe, I don't think it was his daughter's first affair or something. I think it has to do with his relationship with Putin, his relationship with the leaders in Saudi Arabia, maybe North Korea. But I think it has to be that sensitive, because why would he go to this extreme? And that to me is really concerning, that is an American former president, with that kind of information that he is obviously withholding to the national security state. Now you can say deep state this, deep state that, but the fact is that if you have somebody who is an enemy, whether it's Putin, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or wherever, and you got somebody giving him inside information, I mean, that's insane. Larry?
Well, we do know that there was something in there about Macron from France. And, we've had sort of some tough relations with the French, or like particularly dealing with Putin. But that, that's would be embarrassing. I mean, people collect information on leaders all over the world, and they collect them on ours. I mean, that's what intelligence services do. But the last thing you want to do is have something like that come out. We found out that Macron was doing this or that he shouldn't have been, and heaven knows what other leaders, we would have information on. Yeah, I mean that would really cause us problems around the world in terms of dealing with it. I mean, nations, and one of the things I learned, nations don't have permanent friends or enemies, they have permanent interests. And a lot of times you've got to do,
Yeah.
I mean, after World War II, we aligned ourselves with Stalin, for heaven's sakes, to beat Hitler. So, and then of course we paid the price for that with the Cold War. So those are the things that you have to do. I mean, Roosevelt met with the Saudis on the way back from a conference with Stalin and Churchill because we needed the oil at the time.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a big difference between what was happening back in 1944 and where we are today. But yes, I agree. That it's a temporary thing. It just, to me though, it just weakens our stature. And we just have about a minute here, Brian. But if you want to take that before we go to break, I mean, I just think that talk about leverage. I mean, what kind of leverage if you let somebody like Trump, from what has been found out, at least in the hearings, the public hearings, I don't see that as a win.
Of course not. As I said, I think we were lucky before not to have fire and fury or another major war in the Middle East, which we were brought to the brink of. We cannot risk that again. But I think the best way to beat Donald Trump is some of the things that we're seeing is a successful administration. And of late, we have seen some successes come out of Washington, D.C. We saw an announcement today that I think will motivate people to go to the ballot box. I think that's how you beat Donald Trump and his ilk.
Well, I agree, and I think Biden needs to keep it up and ask to do more. And if he does, I think that he'll have the American people behind him, maybe even a second term. It's the Jeff Santos Show. We'll be right back with our great guests, Brian Garvey, Larry Korb. It's the International Hour. Your phone calls coming up next, 833-545-5333. Back in a flash.
packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863 or online at lonestartransfer.com. That's lonestartransfer.com.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
"33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. When you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're talking with our dynamic duo here on the International Hour, Larry Korb, Center for American Progress, former Deputy Defense Secretary under the Reagan administration, and our good friend Brian Garvey, Mass Peace Action, which is a sponsor of the Jeff Santos Show. He is the assistant director there at the Massachusetts Peace Action, a great organization, folks. If you are in Massachusetts, please become a member or tune in to their many town halls and so forth. Or if you're a member of Peace Action, and also pay attention to what our friends at the Center for American Progress are doing as well on a number of fronts. They have a very good platform as well. But they're not a sponsor, so I give more credits to the other side, Larry. No offense, Larry. All right, we're going to go to the phones, talk to our good friend John in Minnesota. You are first this hour with our great friends Brian Garvey and Larry Korb. Go right ahead, John.
I was listening to the news, and apparently the United Nations wants to investigate what's going on in Zaporizhzhia, because they're very concerned that, this plant could end up kind of becoming a Chernobyl, but much worse, because I understand that if there was a meltdown in that plant, it would contaminate a good portion of Europe. So I think that is, and also the Ukraine and, parts of Russia, of course. That's one issue. And then, I think it is really interesting that Donald Trump, took these very top secret documents and just kept them at his own private residence. What do you think he was thinking? It's kind of fun to speculate. Like, was he going to bribe us? I guess if he's going to be sent to jail for other reasons, he'll just say, "Well, I've got this information on all of you." I don't know. I mean, he's so bizarre, and I realize that would probably be great. Yeah, that would probably be grounds of, they would just go in there and arrest him right then and there. Who would stop the federal government and the military from going and just arresting him? But he's pretty bizarre, and he might have a lot of very compromising information on who knows. This is unprecedented. It never happened before, and
no doubt, it's a brand new world.
I think,
we can't continue to have it either. That's why I think that at the very least, it needs to be prevented from ever running again. We cannot give them a platform.
This isn't the government. It's not good government.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible.
It's just
Brian,
it's dangerous. It's not good governance. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, exactly. Brian, you want to?
Yeah. I was alluding to it before about the skepticism around what reason Donald Trump would have for keeping nuclear secrets at a private residence. Part of me thinks that it's just a status symbol for a man who, for his entire life, has been obsessed with status symbols.
Of course,
wanting to have every trophy, wanting to have everything gold plated, wanting to have his name on everything. I think he might just like the idea of having something as sensitive as nuclear secrets close at hand. I mean,
yes and no.
I know, Jeff, and that is not to say that it's not dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous, and I personally think that it might have something to do with the 2019 investigation into the relationship between Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia, and also the $2 billion.
There's a lot of money there as well.
Yeah,
Brian, right?
A ton.
I mean, exactly.
I had always thought, as much as there was a lot of smoke around Donald Trump's relationship with Russia and Vladimir Putin, there was an inferno with his relationship with Saudi Arabia. He was breaking the emoluments clause nearly every day of his presidency, doing unconstitutional actions, taking money from a foreign government, which is illegal. And I never understood why there was not more focus on that. It seemed to me that was a lot easier, an easier way to get him. And just briefly on John's first point, I think the threat around this nuclear power plant really just reinforces what we've been saying week in and week out, and that's that this war needs to end, and it needs to end immediately because of the consequences, because of those in the crossfire. In terms of this nuclear plant, I think John said it. Much of Europe is in the crossfire because of that.
Yeah, and Zaporizhzhia is the largest nuclear plant in Europe.
Right.
One of the things about Trump, I think part of the reason he took this stuff, he really believes he still won the election and he's going to act like he's still president. Information. I mean, it's hard to believe somebody would think that, but with Trump, you never know.
Yeah, but see, I think he knows that he lost it, and I think he knows he lost it on election night, and he's put up this whole charade since then. But what I think is is I think this guy, he is a deal maker, and he thinks that he has to win the deal, but he had something with Saudi leader, the SBS, whatever his name is, and of course, wouldn't surprise me, he has something with Putin. I mean, look, I mean, we all know of the, I guess, the first month that he was there, and the ambassador from Russia got into the Oval Office. You know, I mean, this is not ordinary things. Oh yeah, let's go around. Let's look behind the bookshelf here. Maybe there's some other evidence. I mean, this guy don't care, because the only thing he cares about is himself and money. He could care less about the United States. He talks about the flag and all that. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how to say the pledges of allegiance unless somebody gives him a script. I mean, come on.
But the real thing we ought to be concerned about is why a significant amount of Americans still support him. How could he get elected in the first place to begin with? And then you have this whole thing now about how many people still support him. And, even if it's one, it's too many. But I mean, we got, 70, 80 million people still support him.
Right.
Well,
and that
the
was after
problem-
a deadly pandemic, too. No, go ahead, Jeff. I just agree
Well,
with
no,
Larry.
I mean, I just think, though, I do too. I just think that there is an anger in America that is on both sides of the aisle, because frankly, we haven't been able to get things done. We were just talking with Governor Dukakis. I mean, they shut down his system, the MBTA, the Orange Line, which, as Brian knows, because he lives in Boston, is a north-south route that, takes a lot of people, a large African-American population in the southern side. You have, a lot of people, on the northern side, but Latino, young college students, white, working class suburbanites, and so on and so forth. And they shut it down 2 weeks before colleges come out. This is in Boston, as you know, Larry, the largest city in the country with a large university population: Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, BU, BC, all of them, right? And they shut the damn thing down. Now, listen, you cannot look at that and say, if this is a first world democracy, this is not going to happen in Paris. It's not going to happen in London. It's not going to happen, in Berlin or Bonn or wherever. And it happens here. And to me, that's where I guess the 80 million people are upset, because they don't see government working for them on a very basic level in a progressive state like Massachusetts. So I think that's where it is. I mean, I hear from some people. Thankfully, I don't have all the Trump people calling up. Otherwise, I'd have to stop the show. But, frankly, if there, I think we need to see success in government and doing the right thing. And I think then the people will fall off the Trump world. Don't forget, a lot of people don't even pay attention to the news. What do you get? You get the Foxification, of more lies, and Tucker Carlson with his bow tie and, telling tales, and then right-wing radio. What are you going to learn from them? That Obama was born in Kenya.
And that's the real problem that we have in this country. People have lost faith in the political and the democratic process, and it was compounded by the COVID and all that. So, yeah, right. This whole idea of democracy around the world is not spreading the way it was. There are less democratic countries than they were a couple of years ago. And can you imagine Republicans inviting Viktor Orban to speak at that conference? What how did that happen? This is the party of, Lincoln and Eisenhower. And,
right.
Even Reagan, I can't believe that, that we would do something like that.
Well, that's the party you used to belong to, Larry. I'm glad that
you're
closer to us. You're safe on our side,
Democrats
at least for a while.
Always getting us into war.
Yeah. Well, yeah. At least that was
There's a lot
the
of
case.
To go around.
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. Yeah, that is for sure. But we haven't really been that way for going back to our friends, LBJ and company. Thank you, John. Appreciate your call and thoughts. Let me ask you this, Brian. Are we doomed in the sense that if we don't have leaders, and I mentioned this on Monday because we had a unique situation on Sunday. I had a chance to go listen to Bernie Sanders, Sarah Nelson, who's been on the show, and a fantastic leader of the Flight Attendants Union, and Sean O'Brien, who I met for the first time, interviewed for the first time. And both of you guys understand this. And I've been a supporter of John Kerry. But John Kerry communicating to the average Joe doesn't fly. I mean, the infamous statement, of course, I voted for it before I voted against it. I mean, no one in America speaks like that outside of somebody in Washington, right? And my concern is, and I don't know, guys, in the control room, if we have the Sean O'Brien cut, just a small piece of him talking to the bus driver. Let me know, Josh, if you do have that. But to me, this is exactly what the Democratic Party needs, and how to communicate big messages to the American people, on war and peace, on the concern of how to deliver, transportation, healthcare, education to the average person. And I think that to me is critical, Brian. You need to have people who can communicate that message. I was talking to my friend Larry Cohen, who was Bernie Sanders, former head of the CWA, a regular every Thursday at 5:00 on our show. And I asked him the other day, I said, who would you see for president? He mentioned Bruce Springsteen. Well, the idea, is laughable to some people. But on the other hand, name me somebody who can communicate a message to working class white men better than Bruce Springsteen. I mean, there's a reason why Clinton in 96, Gore in 2000, Kerry in 2004, Obama in 2008, and again in 12, and Hillary in 16 brought Bruce Springsteen out in the final day to talk to voters. I mean, there's a reason for that. And Trump, in my opinion, gets into that as well. Not because Trump identifies, at all with Bruce Springsteen, but he has the ability to communicate on a vulgar level that some people understand.
Sure. What you're
Brian?
talking about is populism. And I was at the same rally. I heard Sean, I heard Sarah, I heard Senator Bernie Sanders speak, and they speak in a way that politicians don't, right? And I think the American people know how to spot it, right? When they hear that fake focus group type language, something just registers in their brain. I can't trust this. And I heard the exact opposite from those three speakers, from Ms. Nelson, Mr. O'Brien, and Senator Sanders. They were talking like we talk to each other. They were talking like I talk to my neighbors, in a way like human beings. And I think that's what I think populism has taken has gotten really unfair reputation in the last few years because of Donald Trump. And it's funny, populism can come from, it can come from billionaires. It can come from someone from such an esteemed family as Franklin Roosevelt. Populism can come from anywhere. But just because somebody latched onto it for his own devices, for his own personal reasons, right? He cares about himself and money. I'm talking about Donald Trump. Does not mean that we should abandon populism.
Exactly.
I think that and we shouldn't abandon the idea of an outsider taking control in this country either, simply because we got someone like Donald Trump and he did such a terrible job. I think we need an outside perspective, and we need someone who can speak to working people, because that's who most of the people in this country are, and let's not forget it.
Yeah. I think if Bernie had gotten the nomination in 2016, he would have beat Trump. because he, as you pointed out, he could, speak the populist language as well, but do the right things. You speak about the right things. So,
the needs
and
of the
then I
American
guess you
people.
get into the whole question of the establishment picking the candidates, their kind of preferred people rather than, I mean, because Trump upset the Republican establishment. They just didn't think he was going to go anyplace. They ignored him. And the next thing you know, he was able to get the nomination, whereas the Democrats, with people like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, they were really concerned, and so they had to put up the normal candidate or something.
Yeah, the quote unquote normal candidate who lost, in 16. And I think if it wasn't for the evidence that was just out there in the American eye of what Donald Trump was doing between 16 and 20, he probably would have beaten Biden too if Biden was the nominee in 16, as he was
He
thinking
got
about
more
running.
votes than he did in 2016.
Yes, exactly.
Very scary how close it was.
Right.
Very.
No doubt. I want to play a quick cut here from Sean O'Brien that was not heard on the microphones at the event, Brian. This is the interview that I did with him. But what I want to emphasize here is just a little bit of an intro of Sean O'Brien, talking to a MBTA driver who came by and just understanding that this is how people talk to each other, particularly those in the working class trades, in general life. Let's pay that if we can, Josh.
Continuation with our good friend, the brand new head and a really amazing and passionate spokesperson for labor, and of course the head of the International Teamsters Union here on the Jeff Santos Show, Sean O'Brien. Just to wrap it up, do you feel that we need to act as a whole, as a movement, to bring together the progressive movement, bring together the civil rights movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ, the whole rainbow, as I talked about earlier. But we almost have to act over these next few months for November and then obviously the 24th.
We've got a short window to mesh all those causes together, right, under one blanket. Like, the good thing about the Teamsters Union, we've been fighting for equality for 120 years. We've been taking on the issues, and those issues are very important. Those issues are germane to the success of this country, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think if we can actually fold the social issues and with the progressive agenda, also with holding accountability to people that don't support the issues, I think we'll be very successful. Because the biggest social misjustice is people not being able to afford food, people not being able to afford to own a home, people not being able to afford opportunity to go to college. That's the biggest social injustice that's happening. All the rest we can fix at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the show.
Look forward to seeing you, man. We're going to get you on.
We're going to have fun.
We're going to have definitely fun. Unfortunately, the wrong cut that we had, but we'll see if we can rim it up in time. If not, we'll try to do it next week. But the point of it was that Howie was talking to an MBTA driver. And the MBTA driver, I guess somebody worked out in the gym with Sean. He's like, "Hey, nice guns," is referring to, his biceps. And again, you don't hear this very much, from people in Washington. And the guy yelled back, and he actually took time out of the interview. Again, we're at a park now, and he said, "Hold on a second." He walked over, spent about 2 or 3 minutes with the bus driver. He says, "We're going to try to win for the MBTA." Because the Teamsters actually have members there, the MBTA drivers. And he came back and he finished the interview. That's what actually we ended up recording in the final minute or two. But that's what I was trying to sort of get out, is that, it's real talk. It's, "Hey, how you doing?" And, it's more of a New York Italian thing. But you know what I'm saying? It's a concern that I feel that too many people can't communicate with the average American. And that's what Donald Trump tragically has done. And he's done it at the most, vulgar, basic level, the lowest common denominator, usually based on race, that your problems are because of the black guy or the Latino guy or the gay guy or the gay woman or the trans, which is big now. And that's what's unfortunately, has, as you're saying, Brian, has ruined the concept of populism. It's this guttural element.
Yeah, and it actually reminds me of something my father used to say. A lot of colors in this country, black, white, yellow, red. What color matters the most in America? Green.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Mr.
Just like
O'Brien
this
was
color.
saying there. I think I think that's absolutely right, and we need to talk to people's kitchen table economic issues, and that's what I try and do every day when we're talking about things like the military budget, like the money that's pouring into the pockets of these defense contractors, and that's what I was telling people at that rally. There was a lot of talk about corporate criminals. Who has been ripping off the American people more than big defense contractors like Raytheon and General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin? That's where the discretionary dollars are going. That's where Congress is deciding to send your tax dollars while there are veterans sleeping on the streets. It's a travesty. And we need to be able to speak to those big issues in a way that people can understand. Because you don't need an Ivy League education. You don't even need a high school degree to realize that there's something wrong with this country. And the decisions that we have been making have not been serving the citizens of the United States for a long time. And people understand that. It's common sense.
It is, guys, we in this situation, we could do 3 hours on this topic. You guys are fantastic. Larry Korb, Brian Garvey, a pleasure this afternoon.
One good thing
as always.
One good
Go ahead,
thing
Larry.
about getting the student loans paid, that to me was a step in the right direction.
I agree, 100%. Keep it going, Mr. President. Keep it going. That's a great step. You do a lot more, but that's a great step forward. And again, I think all of this, is the likes of Bernie Sanders and others pushing the envelope to push Biden. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
All the best, gentlemen.
All the best. We'll be right back.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your one-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
American Airlines is once again cutting its flight schedule, slashing 16% or 31,000 flights during November, according to data from an aviation analytics company.
The airline said the move is in line with our approach to network and schedule planning throughout the year. Schedule data provided by Cirium shows the largest cuts are between Chicago O'Hare and Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as between Boston and Philadelphia. Jason Riley reporting.
Explosions and fires ripped through an ammunition depot in Russian-occupied Crimea on Tuesday in the second suspected Ukrainian attack on the peninsula in just over a week.
Russia blamed the blasts in the village of Mayskoye on an act of sabotage, without naming the perpetrators. Separately, the Russian business newspaper Kommersant quoted residents as saying plumes of black smoke also rose over an airbase in Crimea's Gvardeyskoye. Harry Michaels reporting.
For the second year in a row, Arizona and Nevada will face cuts in the amount of water they can draw from the Colorado River as the West endures extreme drought, federal officials announced Tuesday.
The river provides water across 7 states and in Mexico and helps feed an agricultural industry valued at $15 billion a year. Cities and farms are anxiously awaiting official estimates of the river's future water levels that will determine the extent and scope of cuts to their water supply. Davis Richards reporting.
The Justice Department said in a new court filing that it opposes an effort by multiple media organizations to unseal the supporting affidavit behind the now public search warrant for former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
There remain compelling reasons, including to protect the integrity of an ongoing law enforcement investigation that implicates national security, that support keeping the affidavit sealed, the filing states.
This is the latest news headlines. Kraft Heinz announced a recall on Friday of more than 5,000 cases of Capri Sun due to a possible contamination.
This voluntary recall comes after the company announced the potential contamination affecting approximately 5,760 Capri Sun cases. Each case contains about 10 pouches of its wild cherry flavor. The company said a diluted cleaning solution was inadvertently introduced into a production line at one of its factories. Torvi Rodriguez reporting.
A woman was killed in an apparent alligator attack in South Carolina on Monday, officials said. The large alligator was spotted near the edge of a pond in Sun City Hilton Head, an adult-only community, guarding what was to believe a person, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office said. Responders found the gator and a dead person, the sheriff's office said. The victim hasn't been identified. Monday in the journal Nature Food presented models for a scenario in which the United States and Russia are engaged in a full-scale nuclear war for 1 week. In the scenario of the war between the United States and Russia, the global average calorie production from crops would decrease around 90% within 4 years after the nuclear war. Nuclear war would also reduce the global fish supply. Spider-Man actor Tom Holland has said he is stepping back from social media as he finds it can be detrimental to his mental health. 26-year-old Holland is the latest young star following the likes of Selena Gomez to discuss how sites like Twitter and Instagram can have harmful effects. Many fans applauded him online, with one calling it a smart move. In a video posted online, Holland said, "I find Instagram and Twitter to be overstimulating, to be overwhelming." And that's the latest news headlines. I'm Alan Edwards.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs. 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit by being swept to FDIC member institutions. To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
This is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America. Together. Investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
It is hour 3 of the Jeff Santos Show, and welcome to it, folks, coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is great to be with you on this Wednesday edition of the Jeff Santos Show. We'll be speaking to two great progressives in this hour, back-to-back. First, we'll start with the longest-serving contributor to the Jeff Santos Show, going back to 2006. Our good friend John Nichols will be with us momentarily. He, of course, is the national affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine, the author of many great books, including The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party. Look at the great Henry Wallace. And then Alex Lawson will join us, Executive Director of Social Security Works, real fighter, co-founder of We Act Radio. And it's going to be a dynamic hour, folks, to talk about a number of issues affecting progressives, the Democratic Party writ large, and whether or not there's momentum for the Democrats in November. Well, let's start right there. Let's go to Madison, Wisconsin. Let's start the conversation with our good friend. He is an award-winning journalist. So glad to always have him every Wednesday at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. And in live from Madison, WI, is our good friend, the handsome John Nichols there with this portrait we have of you, John. One of these days we'll see you live on video. But in the meantime, I got to look at this individual who's GQ cover. How are you, sir?
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not going to replace that picture now. It must be the best one ever taken. So I am.
Yeah,
I
you're
am
just going to stay with the audio.
Fine.
Huh?
I am fine as long as you describe me so generously. How could I be otherwise?
Well, you know, it's what happens when you pay me under the table, right? No, only kidding. Of course, you are the best.
Under the table, man. You're a straight shooter.
I know.
You are a straight shooter.
You are. You are, and I am.
To
and we try to do the best we can.
Yeah.
No. You are the best, and you are authentic as can be. With that, and I want to get your honest portrayal here, because a lot has happened over the last couple of weeks. We saw Liz Cheney, as you kind of predicted, go down to defeat, and where that leaves her and her political future. We've seen now two pieces of, well, I guess one's a legislation and it was an executive order, but Biden, obviously winning the IRA, not to be confused with our good friend Jerry Adams, our retirement account. But then today he signs the whole thing on student loans. Granted, 10,000, we wanted more, progressives wanted more.
Yeah.
But this is a sign, in my view, that he is listening. he's listening to, whether it's Ron Klain, who's listening to Alex Lawson and Bernie Sanders and other progressives that they connect with, or Jayapal, or whoever is in that pipeline. I just really think, and I know you understand this, because that Sanders has had a profound impact in the Democratic Party over the last 7 years since he announced in 2015. And if you look at all the legislation going back to the Recovery Act back in March of 21, where again Biden's poll numbers were at 60% back then, he has basically taken that line, and now the poll numbers are going back up from high 30s into the mid 40s. Are you optimistic about where the Democrats are going now over the last 2 weeks? We know that, Republicans are off the wall. We know that the issue of women's right to choose is front and center as well. What's your take?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in play here. Let's be clear. We are in a moment where it's late summer. Usually attention is off politics, and people are worried about getting the last few days at the beach or last few days away from work. This year is different. We have a very intense period, and to the credit of Biden and people around him, they've used August to tie up a lot of loose ends and to launch some new initiatives. That's super smart. And so what they've done is they've kind of positioned themselves in the right place at the pivot point in the electoral cycle. Labor Day is the traditional beginning of the fall campaign, and as we head toward Labor Day, you see the Democrats really, putting things in the proper place. And, I have to say, this gets us to something that you and I talked about a couple of years ago with Biden. Even though we may have had differences with Biden on specific issues and maybe not agreed with him on everything or not agreed with all his approach on everything, the guy is experienced. The guy has been winning elections since the late 1960s, early 1970s, right? And rarely.
He was elected in 73 to the U.S. Senate.
Lost a couple presidential races. Yeah. So the thing is, and he's certainly a veteran of the Senate, 36 years in the Senate, 8 years as vice president, which is president of the Senate. So he kind of, I think, knew when he had to hit his mark. And he recognized that it was going to be hard. There were no guarantees, but clearly they aimed to get a lot of things put together as they headed toward this pivot point. And remarkably, Jeff, it seems to have worked because, yes, Biden's poll numbers are up, but so too are Democrats running for the Senate. As of today, Mandela Barnes has a 7-point lead in Wisconsin. John Fetterman has a lead in the double digits in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Tim Ryan, it's up to one poll had it heading toward 20 points. Tim Ryan is, depending on which poll you look at, either tied or maybe even a couple points ahead. Val Demings just got a poll that put her 4 points ahead in Florida. And former Supreme Court Justice Beasley in North Carolina has polls that have her tied. And that's, I'm not going to go through every race and everything. What I'm going to tell you is they're actually
but those
in
big
a
ones
pretty
show
darn
a
good
definite
situation right now.
Yeah. No, they show a definite, roadmap for victory for those Democrats in those Senate seats. I think it's great news. And again, for those, and we have a lot of great progressive callers and listeners. For those who are disappointed on the student loan piece, I will just say this: it was only a few months ago where he was thinking of just punting on it. So I think that again, the pressure from the progressive side of things. Because it's obviously not the pressure. There's no pressure to do this from the Clinton crowd, to Bruce Reed, who was there on Klain's shoulder as the deputy chief of staff. So I think that that's a win for us. Granted, not what we wanted. We wanted more robust, but it's a win nonetheless because all of these things, again, are coming from the progressive side of things. This is not coming from the Clinton wing, not coming from the Gottheimer wing of the party. So,
well, can I tell you?
I mean, look,
this is. Let me give you one very funny.
Yeah,
Can I
go
give you
for
a
it.
funny illustration of it?
Yeah.
Okay, just a quick one. So obviously today Biden did the loan forgiveness. It's not as much as we would like, but it's very significant. Well, just yesterday, Larry Summers was saying how it was a bad idea, right? So Biden obviously heard what Larry Summers said and said, well, thanks a lot for that. I'm going to go and govern now. And so the reality is
good.
this is an explicit rejection of the doomsday counseling of the old Clinton types. And so, yeah, it's actually really, really good stuff that's going on here.
Let me ask you, this has been inside baseball, but do you think that at one point, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago with Clinton's, with Biden's numbers in the dungeon there, that Clayton's job was in jeopardy, but now, there's a little bit of a rebound that he is also maybe more secure in his gig and still has the open pipeline to progressives?
I think that Clayton has a super close relationship with Biden and with people in the administration that goes back a long way. And so my instinct is that that they've always been on pretty good terms. So I don't think he was ever vulnerable. That's my gut. Okay. Although I do think that the way politics works, that does happen, where there's pressure, and I'm sure that there were undoubtedly some folks who would have liked to have pushed Clayton out or blamed Clayton for things. But as you know with Biden, if you keep a good eye on the guy, he doesn't push people out very often.
No, he's a pretty loyal guy. I mean, some people who I think need to go, like Walensky and maybe the Homeland Security guy. I agree. No, I think he's a decent human being. He doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. He doesn't like to, upset the apple cart. And again, sometimes you have to. But I'm glad that is indeed the situation with Clayton. I know that he was really close with him, and it's good that I think he's prevailing, because that's what we, as the country needs, and what the progressive movement needs, is to have somebody in the White House who gets what we're all about. And again, he's claimed to be, an FDR Democrat. So that's that whole line that our good friends Harvey Kaye and Alan Minsky have adapted on the 21st century version. But that's, who FDR, who Biden has kind of tied his wagon to, as being an FDR pro-union Democrat, which we haven't had in a long time. So again, I keep the pressure on as I'm concerned. Hey, I want to play a cut, and Josh, if you can put these two pieces together that we talked about. On Sunday, I had the great opportunity, John, to go to a big event with Bernie Sanders. We got a chance to interview him for about a minute. I'm not going to play that cut, but I'm going to play the cut. Sure. And Sarah Nelson was there, who was, Alicia Keys' song, if you remember, "A Girl on Fire." That was meant for Sarah Nelson. She was on fire at the Cambridge Commons, where the event was being held, and as was Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters head. Now, as you know, Democrats have had a problem communicating to $35,000 a year employees, the average American salary, to the average working class person. They've kind of abandoned, as you've talked about many times and have written about, that, Democrats and working class voters over the last 30 or 40 years don't necessarily connect. Well, here's what you're going to hear from the new head of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, and talking to an MBTA driver. Let's play that cut, and then a little bit more, John Nichols, from Sean O'Brien on what he believes this alliance with Sanders and Nelson is all about. Josh, go right ahead.
Afraid to say union and call out Amazon, right? And call out Amazon, and you've got some Norcross. He's been a phenomenal supporter of ours in New Jersey. So you got a lot of people. What's up, brother? How are you? I know, Murph. What's up? You're looking good. Hey, there's Danny Ristine. Where is he? That's Murph. Murph, let me see the guns. The best.
Showing his biceps.
Yep.
See
you, Murph.
we look forward to having you on the show,
can't
Sean. To do maybe a whole hour with us and take some calls. We have a lot of friends of ours in labor. In fact, we have listeners who.
Ralph, 1 second. Take a walk
Go
over.
right ahead. Okay. Continuation with our good friend, the brand new head and a really amazing and passionate spokesperson for labor, and of course the head of the International Teamsters Union here on the Jeff Santos Show, Sean O'Brien. Just to wrap it up, do you feel that we need to act as a whole, as a movement, to bring together the progressive movement, bring together the civil rights movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ, the whole rainbow, as I talked about earlier. But we almost have to act over these next few months from November and then obviously to 24.
We've got a short window to mesh all those causes together, right, under one blanket. Like, the good thing about the Teamsters Union, we've been fighting for equality for 120 years. We've been taking on the issues, and those issues are very important. Those issues are germane to the success of this country, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think if we can actually fold the social issues and with the progressive agenda, also with holding accountability to people that don't support the issues, I think we'll be very successful. Because the biggest social misjustice is people not being able to afford food, people not being able to afford to own a home, people not being able to afford opportunity to go to college. That's the biggest social injustice that's happening. All the rest we can fix at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the show.
Look forward to seeing you, man. We're going to get you on.
We're going to have fun.
We're going to have definitely fun. Hey,
that was Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters Union, and John Nichols. What you heard there with Murph, the bus driver, is exactly what working class people, regardless if they're in Wisconsin or Massachusetts or California, wherever, need to hear from leaders. And as you know, I really like and spend a lot of time and have been an advocate for John Kerry. But when John Kerry talks like the senatorial guy that he spent 25 years or whatever in the Senate, I voted for it before I voted against it. That's not going to communicate with Murph, the bus driver that Sean O'Brien just talked with. And I think that that's so important. And it was glad to see in a event in Cambridge, Massachusetts, obviously a pretty progressive part of America, much like where you're from in Madison. I thought that was really eye-opening in this regard. Bernie Sanders, again, he's the one, and unlike Billy Joel's song, "We Didn't Start the Fire," he did start the fire, Bernie, in 2015, in my view, in the progressive movement. And, to bring on, a part of the coalition in Sean O'Brien, you bring now a way to communicate with a lot of people who don't necessarily understand the Washington world, the political world, don't understand what sometimes the Democratic Party is all about. To me, that was just, I know it existed. It wasn't eye-opening and shocking, but it was great to hear, because usually you don't hear that when we talk on the progressive agenda items and when we talk about Democratic politics as a whole. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think you captured something really special there. And a good union leader, when they travel around the country, they see a lot of their members and people they know, sometimes people they've known for a very, very long time, right? Because you come up, through the ranks, you come up fighting your way up. And so it's like a good politician, although frankly, because unions tend to be often, not always, more familial than politics, there are really these deep connections, and it's at a very human level. So you caught a little bit of that, and I think that's clearly one of the reasons why O'Brien is turning out to be such a good leader of the Teamsters. And obviously, as you said in your interview, he's got a good perspective on this. He understands some of the core economic issues that are driving people, and I think he sees it in a way that I doubt a lot of his as well. And so as he comes out with Bernie Sanders and talks about economic and social and racial justice, I think his members are hearing that. They're turning out. These rallies that they had in Boston and Philadelphia were quite successful. So I think something good's happening here. And O'Brien's part of it, as is Sarah Nelson.
Right. Well, I mean, Sarah, who's been on the show many times, is just a star. I mean, I think that she could easily run for office if she wanted to, Senate, Congress, whatever. And I think she could win. She's really, spitfire, and my opinion, a real leader that people in Congress could definitely. The Congress could definitely use. Talking with John Nichols here in the remaining moments of the Jeff Santos Show. Let me ask you this, John. Do you sense that over the next 2 months, is it time for Democrats on the progressive side? Our good friend Larry Cohen was talking about this. Post Rhode Island, I think Alan Minsky was saying, where there's a congressional seat there, Langevin, a longtime Democrat, more on the conservative centrist side, his seat. There are a couple of progressives that are running there. Outside of that, coming together, the progressive wing, the centrist wing, the corporate wing, coming together, to defeat fascism and the Republicans. How do you look at that? What's the best avenue for progressives to take in becoming part of that coalition and leading the coalition? Meaning, post-election in November, that they can come out and say, look, it was our members, our supporters that helped put this person over the top or that person over the top in a coalition way. What do you think is the best success for progressives going into November and coming out of November?
Well, look, the bottom line is that progressives have to have power, right? You compete in exactly. Electoral politics for power. And so winning in November is the way that you get power. You seek a victory so that you can do things. And here's the bottom line. We're now at the point where the question is, do Democrats win or Republicans win, right? I mean, which side of the equation is going to come out on top? And, at this point, I think for the Democrats, it's a very, it's a year that they could win in, and it's also a very important year. It's not just to beat, the Trump Republicans and things like that. It's also to have those positions of power. Remember, if the Democrats win, it's very likely that Bernie Sanders will be in charge of health, education, and labor. You know what I mean? That committee.
That's right.
That's a pretty good place for Bernie Sanders to be. And you got a lot of other committee chairs in the House and the Senate who are very progressive and would have a lot of power. So bottom line is that at this point, the key is, do the Democrats win? If they win, then you're going to have progressives in a place, A, to literally run key committees, but B, also to be what they have always been, which is the generator of good ideas. That's the bottom line is the centrists don't come up with good ideas. I mean, they're often spectators, and it's the progressives that fight for things. They don't get everything they want, unfortunately, but boy, it's good to have them there fighting, and their ideas do get borrowed, advanced, and sometimes implemented.
Just about 60 seconds left here. I agree. I hope whatever deals, coalitions are formed, to win in a state like Ohio, as an example, to get people who voted for Nina Turner to come out for Tim Ryan, heavily, to see, the progressives, that backed, Tom Nelson and have backed other candidates to kind of coalesce and to get Mandela Barnes across the finish line, on and on throughout the country, even in some rural states, that the Democrats can do well. I mean, to be able to have Kelly win and to have the Secretary of State in Arizona win, that's massive. It also gets our friend Miss Cinema over to France or Italy to hang out in their wine factories.
Good luck on that one. Yeah.
Well, we're going to try. That's what we need. The Secretary of State to win the governorship there. John Nichols, thank you, my friend. Right. Always great. Check out The Nation. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, it's good talking to you, and be strong, brother. Things are looking up.
You too, man. Thank you. I agree. We'll be right back. It's the Jeff Santos Show. That was John Nichols. I'm Jeff Santos. Alex Lawson's next after this. Time out.
The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
So you want to go green? How about going green with your greenbacks? Try aspiration.com. Shares your values on the environment and climate change. Ever wonder what the big banks do with your deposits? Well, it goes to fossil fuel companies for sure. Not at aspiration.com. Your deposits will never fund fossil fuel projects like pipelines, oil rigs, and coal mines. With aspiration.com, you get 55,000 free in-network ATMs. 3 to 5% cash back on conscientious coalition purchases, personal impact score to help you shop to match your values, and an option to plant a tree with every roundup. Deposits in your Aspiration Spend and Save account are FDIC insured up to $2.46 million per deposit by being swept to FDIC member institutions. To find out more, you can go to aspiration.com/revolution.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 hour pain relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 hour pain relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 hour pain relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 hour pain relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into. We are here every Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 Eastern Time, 12 to 3 Pacific Time. And, of course, you can always check us out on Facebook Live. Just go into the search bar at Jeff Santos Show, and you can check us out and watch at your leisure as well. Our next guest is a true fighter for progressive ideas, a progressive populist perspective. I like to call myself, actually. And he is there as the executive director of Social Security Works, but also co-founder of We Act Radio. Our good friend Alex Lawson joins us today on the phone from the nation's capital. Alex, great to have you back, my friend. How are you?
Great to be here, Jeff. As always, sorry I couldn't come in on video. I'm really liking the look of the videos that you're doing. So next time, I promise.
Oh, great. Next time is always welcome, my friend. It's great to see you with a good photograph as well. Let me just tell you, I am somewhat buoyed by the combination of things that I have witnessed, both personally as I was in Cambridge on Sunday with Senator Sanders, as well as Sean O'Brien, the new Teamsters president, and Sarah Nelson. And I know you've interacted with all of them at some point. And at the same time, I think that, even though it's not exactly what we're looking for and it's not enough, what the president has done on IRA, Again, not the best name in the world, but we'll leave that for another discussion. And what he did today on the student loans. Again, as most of my progressive audiences, don't go too far, Jeff. I think that it's a good sign. And the sign is, because you're in the middle of this, Alex, is that if it's not for Bernie and Jayapal and progressive leaders and progressive organizations like you and our friends at Alan Minsky at PDA and Larry Cohen, who's on tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern time at Our Revolution, putting together this pressure, none of these things get done. From the first, the first thing in springtime, American Rescue Plan, whatever it was called, that he ended up at 60%, did Biden, to the IRA, again, bad name, but good plan. Again, still problems, not enough on the prescription drugs, obviously 10, it's ridiculous. And then, of course, you got climate change and you got the tax rate going up on the 1%. All good, but more. But I think that the progressive movement has made some gains here because as I was telling John Nichols a minute ago, without the Bernie agenda, none of these things even get a look. The Clinton crowd, Bruce Reed there, we've talked about many times, none of these things are on their agenda. So I don't want to take a victory lap. I don't want to spike the football, but I want to give credit to you and many of your people, your colleagues you work with. Without, the persistence of the progressive community, none of these things, get done. Again, a long way from celebration time, but I think it's a start. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I have the same sentiment. There's a lot left to be done, but there's a lot of great first steps. And I've been here in Washington D.C. for a while. It's rare. Yes, I wanted Biden to cancel all the student debt. I worked on that bill with Ilhan Omar, and then we brought in Senator Sanders, and I think it just took a whole new life. And the conversation is, let's do this universally. Let's just cancel all student debt. That's not Joe Biden. That's not who he is. He didn't campaign on that. He campaigned on canceling $10,000 of student debt, and he did a bit more than that. And I think that Melissa Byrne is an organizer who, if you want to know one name that you should credit with really driving along the entire canceling student debt movement, there's a lot of work that, if I start listing names, I'm definitely going to forget Legion. But she also one time said this really remarkable thing on Twitter that I do every once in a while. She reminds us when we don't get everything that we want, just randomly pick any C-SPAN clip of Democrats talking in the 1990s, and you will be amazed at how far we have come. And that doesn't mean that, again, it's not like a victory lap, but it's a real thing, as you know, Jeff. And what we're seeing is a new day. It's a new day.
Yeah, it is a new day.
So, yes, I think you got a lot of exciting stuff happening, especially with worker power, as you opened. I recently just got back from a conference, Netroots Nation, which was the first time in person in a since COVID, and it was a very interesting conference. It was great. It was great to be in community with people again and really talk about what we've been organizing on and all sorts of stuff that we are going to organize on as well. But Jeff, the thing that I think you'd find really interesting was this change that usually politicians at a conference like that are like sort of the celebrities, but it was absolutely Chris Smalls who was the celebrity. Like, if Chris Smalls was walking with any of the politicians who were there, competing for crowds, the crowds would have gone to him. The Amazon labor union organizer. And I think we're seeing that across the country. I think the wins that you're talking about are showing that as well, that this is a bottom-up grassroots power moment that we're living in, even if there are still sort of the old guard elite Democrats at the levers of power. The rowdy activists are driving the agenda because the moment demands it. The moment demands more, but again, this is a start.
Yes, exactly. Talking to Alex Lawson, Social Security Works, We Act Radio. Just great fighter for the progressive movement, the progressive populist movement there in Washington, D.C., here on the Jeff Santos Show. I'm going to play a couple of sound bites for you from when I saw myself firsthand in Cambridge at the rally that was in Philadelphia on Saturday and in Boston on Sunday, or Cambridge on Sunday. And first, I'm going to play a cut from Bernie Sanders. A quick interview with him. I had to run down the street to catch him to do it. Running after an 81-year-old in New Balance sneakers. Exactly. And then we're going to play some Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters. And I think you're going to hear something that goes exactly to your point of who really are the stars in this new movement. All right, Josh, our great producer there in Boca Raton, go ahead and play the Bernie cut. It's kind of start this fire because he's the one that kind of lit the match. Go ahead, Josh. Senator, your thoughts about how this and the Philadelphia event have really opened some eyes for a lot of young people?
Well, the goal is to make people understand that at a time when the working class is in decline, when we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time in 100 years, that the only way forward is for working people to stand up and fight back. And the most effective way to do that is to join unions. So we're seeing a rebirth of the trade union movement in this country. I was just on a picket line with Starbucks workers, Amazon workers here at MIT, and all over the country. People are beginning to form unions. That's a great thing, and we're trying to do what we can to help that.
Do you think
that's about it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. Look to have it on my show sometime soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Bernie. As you know, Alex, that's the senator. You got to go. That's it. But and hopefully we will get him on. It's been a few years, but for a longer interview. Used to interview him all the time prior to his campaign for president in 2016. But that's the energy behind the movement that you're engaged with, and involved with. He's sort of laid out the mission here on some of these tours that he's doing. Again, Philadelphia on Saturday, Boston, Cambridge on Sunday, and he's done a few other places too. Your thoughts about, how he has brought together this coalition. Then we'll play a cut from Sean O'Brien that I think will bring a smile to your face as well.
No, that was definitely as Bernie as you can get. Also, the fact that it was hard to catch up with him. He is super fast. And when he's done giving an interview, he is off.
Yes,
but indeed. He is and eternally grumpy. That's just on brand for him.
That's who he is.
But what he's saying there is absolutely correct. That you look around and things are bleak. It's very difficult right now because the billionaires have squeezed every nickel that they can out of every person who they can get them from. And the breaking points are all around. Climate catastrophe all over the place. But what the moment demands is actually Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders, when he ran for president, the promises that he made were large enough to deal with the problems that we face right now with wealth and income inequality and the climate catastrophe and racism and so many other issues that this country is just racked with. But the progress that we're seeing from a very not Bernie Sanders president, right? I think that's fair. I think Joe Biden is as not Bernie Sanders as you can get in the Democratic Party. But still, what we're measuring these policies from are how much less they are from what Bernie Sanders would have done, but there's still the policies that Bernie Sanders would have done, just not enough. And so even in his eternal grumpiness, I do believe that Senator Sanders recognizes the waking up aspect that we're in here, and especially among working people in this country who are saying the billionaire class are destroying our lives and the planet. And the only way we can win is by standing together, raising our voices together, and joining a union is the most powerful way of doing exactly that.
Couldn't agree with you more. We're talking with our good friend Alex Lawson, Executive Director, Social Security Works, and of course, co-founder of We Act Radio here on the Jeff Santos Show. All right, let's play the cut. This is Sean O'Brien. Again, you mentioned Kristen Smalls and so forth, and what he has done with Amazon and those great workers and forming a union in Staten Island. And so here's Sean O'Brien, talking to me outside at a park where they held the event with Bernie and Sarah Nelson, the great, I call it Girl on Fire after the great Alicia Keys song. And this is Sean O'Brien outside in the park, and what comes after it, I think you'll get a kick out of, Alex. Let's play that, Josh.
The United States is not afraid to say union and
Yes,
call
exactly.
out out Amazon,
right?
And call out Amazon, and you've got some Norcross has been a phenomenal supporter of ours in New Jersey. So you got a lot of people. What's up, brother? How are you? I know, Murph. What's up? You're looking good. Hey, there's Danny Ristine. Where is he? That's Murph. Murph, let me see the guns. The best.
Showing his biceps.
Yep.
See you, Murph. We look forward to having you on the show, Sean. To do maybe a whole hour with us and take some calls. We have a lot of friends of ours in labor. In fact, we have listeners who.
Murph, 1 second. Take a walk.
Go right ahead. Okay.
Sorry.
Continuation with our good friend, the brand new head and a really amazing and passionate spokesperson for labor, and of course the head of the International Teamsters Union here on the Jeff Santos Show, Sean O'Brien. Just to wrap it up, do you feel that we need to act as a whole, as a movement, to bring together the progressive movement, bring together the civil rights movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ, the whole rainbow, as I talked about earlier. But we almost have to act over these next few months for November, and then obviously the 24th.
We've got a short window to mesh all those causes together, right, under one blanket. Like, the good thing about the Teamsters Union, we've been fighting for equality for 120 years. We've been taking on the issues, and those issues are very important. Those issues are germane to the success of this country, and we're going to continue to do that. But I think if we can actually fold the social issues and with the progressive agenda, also with holding accountability to people that don't support the issues, I think we'll be very successful. Because the biggest social misjustice is people not being able to afford food, people not being able to afford to own a home, people not being able to afford opportunity to go to college. That's the biggest social injustice that's happening. All the rest we can fix at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the show.
Look forward to seeing you, man. We're going to get you on.
We're going to have fun.
We're going to have definitely fun. Hey, that was, of course, the great Sean O'Brien, the new head of the International Teamsters Union. And, of course, Alex, you heard his his love for the biceps of the MBTA bus driver that stopped by the park, Murph. And, that to me is something that has been missing in the Democratic Party. I laugh and, I know John Kerry a little bit and so forth. But, I mean, just oppose what we just heard, right, with the senatorial speak of Senator Kerry, now Secretary Kerry, now special climate counselor to the president, Kerry. I voted for her before I voted against it and all that, right? Versus show me those guns, and we're not talking about, again, folks, not talking about any weapons here. We're talking about the guy's muscles and his arms. That to me is where we need to go. And to see that part of the Sanders movement made me, as a proud progressive populist, I mean, I was just like, well, this is exactly what we need. This is how we expand the movement. And it was just great to see it. And this is how regular people, working class people talk. I mean, particularly when you, in the case of O'Brien, who's from the Boston area, of course, knows this guy who's a Teamster member and drives the MBTA bus that went by the event in Cambridge. I don't know how you feel, but to me, it just brought a smile to my face, and it's exactly where the progressive movement needs to increase. And seeing O'Brien talk about all these issues after, having a fist pump with his buddy at the MBTA driver, to me, that's just a win-win. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what you're pointing to is just the necessity of listening to and that the working people in this country finding their voice and organizing together and leading the change. Unfortunately, we brought it up with that C-SPAN clip of Democrats in the 90s. For too long, the ruling class elite, they had two parties here. There's a shift. And now I think what we are fighting for is who can actually represent working people. And it's so clear
yes,
that the policies that Democrats put forward are policies that benefit working people. We need to do more. Of course. Take Medicare negotiation, for example, right? You think it's billionaires who can't afford their drugs that their doctors tell them they need? Of course not. It's working people.
Right.
I tried to get all of the drugs negotiated. You know that, Jeff. I came to this town to do that. I worked hard to do that. I know that there's going to be another side, though. I'm going to have opponents. And I can tell you who the opponents are. It's the Republicans. Yeah. The Republicans and their paymasters in pharma. So we need stronger, bolder Democrats facing in our direction. And the key to doing that is listening to working people, to putting in place policies that benefit working people, that put people over the special interests. And again, I listen to the speeches that President Biden makes when he puts these things into law, when he signed the IRA, or today when he announced the student debt cancellation. And what he's saying is exactly the same thing. He's saying, I'm not going to miss a chance to fight for working people. And, again, I wish he'd do a little more, but this is a guy who has Bruce Reed in his White House. A guy that, Bruce Reed, who set up the commission, was the executive director of the commission that was set up to cut Social Security. So, but now Biden understands which way the political power is moving, and just how important it is. Just how important it is that working families win, because they have been on the loss side for too long, with these corporations just grinding people into dust in order to just throw the ever larger amounts of cash that Wall Street demands, right? That is not working. That is not working for anyone but the just over 2,000 billionaires on this planet. And guess what? There's 7 billion not billionaires. And that's who things need to work for, not this vanishingly small number of people who have a sick fascination with collecting more and more and more money.
Yes.
Just so that what?
More
so
yachts,
that they can say they're the
homes.
richest? While children starve, Jeff. While children starve, these guys are worried about another $40 billion.
It's disgusting, and it's where we are in America in 2022. We're not going to be Pollyannish on this show. We're going to be very clear about what needs to be done. But I feel like, this has been a better 3 months than the previous 3 months. And for that matter, going back to the spring of 2021 when he was giving out checks was Biden. So that to me is the reality of it. And I think that's where we need to move. I want to take a quick call here from Mark, who I mentioned to Sean O'Brien in the interview about labor leaders. Sean was, I should say, Mark was a labor leader in San Francisco, now retired with the Chronicle and getting members to be represented in the union. Let's go to Mark in San Francisco. Mark, you're next with Alex Lawson here on the Jeff Santos Show. I just have a minute or two.
Yeah, Alex and Jeff, I have a friend of mine. He was in the union. He was a Vietnam veteran. And I think for Social Security, I think we need some veterans to talk about Social Security and defend Social Security against the attack by the Republicans. He's worried to death because not only do they want to take away his Social Security, also Medicare is under attack, and his veteran benefits are also under attack by the Republicans. And I think we really need to make a big issue out of it. But I'd use some veterans to talk about that, with Social Security, the kind of attack it's under, and who it will affect.
I think that's a great idea, Mark.
Yeah, it's
Alex,
a really great point.
Because they are actually they are actually people who the government has actually worked for through the VA. I mean, not always perfect, but the VA is a government program, single payer healthcare, really, that works for those folks. And when it doesn't work, people find out about it and they make it work. So I think that's a great idea, Mark. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, and the VA is even more than single payer. It's government health care. It's more like the NHS in Britain, and it consistently gets the highest ratings of any part of our healthcare system, which is great for our veterans. It should also be the model of what everyone should get the best.
Amen.
And I think, VA for all is definitely one step more than is under discussion right now. With Medicare for all only being under discussion, and you saw we couldn't even expand Medicare this time, but slowly but surely we're whittling away at their defenses. And I will also say that, just to Mark's point, it's a great point. I feel I've let
20 seconds.
We have this great report, Social Security Works for Veterans, pointing out exactly how important the system is for veterans, and veterans are some of our largest supporters of Social Security. So just a really great point, and I'll get on making sure we get a new version of that report up, and I'll send it over to Mark so we can get that around.
Fantastic. Great idea.
Awesome.
Alex, Mark, thank you so much, my friend. Alex, so great to talk to you and share these good moments. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon. I want to thank our good friends. Thank you, Alex. I want to thank both Josh and Freddie and Boca for their help today. I want you to tell folks, keep on fighting peacefully. Until tomorrow, my name is Jeff Santos. Right now, it's my time to say, I gotta go.
Let's go! The Jeff Santos Show is brought to you by Mass Peace Action. With over 9,000 supporters in the state, MPA uses the power of grassroots organizing to end war, create a more just foreign policy, and cut wasteful Pentagon spending to support the needs of the American people, like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the environment. 20 years of war is long enough. To become a member or learn more, visit masspeaceaction.org. Don't wish for peace, work for it.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing.